Yeah, Mike, I just want to ask, what comes to mind from Gunnar's performance the last time y'all played Ole Miss? What do you think about from his game that day? And it felt like one of those games where, despite the situation, he never was panicked or never felt flustered. How rare is that trait in a quarterback that he always seems to come up big in those big moments?
I don't know. I can't recall that many games, what game that was in the season, but I know he's had a few games up to that point. And, I think each game he gained confidence. And, we had a mantra that game that we were going to go out there and play free. And I thought he went out there and played free. That was, one of the first games that he started to make some plays, extending with his legs, whether it was running for first downs or he had a couple of key scrambles where he was able to find conversions. And then, that happened early in the game. And when you get that confidence, it allows you to continue to play free. But that was the mantra of that game, go out and play free. And he's got a bunch of good teammates around him to make plays for him. But, that game, I think as that game went on, gave him confidence and has carried it over throughout the rest of the year. And another thing about he does it, whether he has a good play or bad play, Gunnar's kind of the same. He doesn't get rattled or doesn't get too high. He does get emotional sometimes, but he's able to come back down to earth, and I think that's a good trait in a quarterback.
Hey, Mike.
Art?
The last time we talked to you, there were people chirping about the Georgia offensive coordinator. This is in the preseason. Now you're a finalist again for the Broyles Award. Back in the playoff, the offense getting praised. Is that satisfying to you?
No, it's satisfying to coach a group of kids that we have this year that have come in and gotten better every week and worked extremely hard. We carry a lot of offense and we put a lot on them each week, and they come out the right week and prepare. And then, work with a great group of guys on the offensive staff. It's not just me, I'm the one calling the plays, but I don't go lock myself in a room and come up with the plays that we're going to run. It's a collaborative effort from our staff, and they've done an outstanding job. There's guys that have been coordinators in that room, and James Coley and Brandon Streeter. There's guys that have been in the NFL, and Coach John Lilly and Phil Roger. There's guys I've worked with before, and Coach Searles and Coach Hartley. And there's, guys that have sat in the chair being a coordinator, and nobody has an ego in there. Everybody's got a lot of suggestions, but at the end of the day, we decide what we're going to run, and they do a great job coaching it. The players do a great job executing it. So that part's, satisfying that I work with a great group of guys and have unbelievable kids to coach. And, we had an outstanding season to this point, but, we got to finish, and that's our mindset right now.
Mike, we'll follow up on George's question about Gunnar a little bit. What were your expectations for him coming into the season? You mentioned a little bit how he's kind of progressed, through the year, but has he accomplished everything from just being the quarterback of the Georgia Bulldogs that you wanted to see him, or there's something else he still needs to do?
Well, I want him to be Gunnar Stockton. And I think in that sense, that was the main message. That Gunnar, I want you to be Gunnar. And you've heard me say this about numerous quarterbacks that I've coached here, whether, when I was here before or I'm back now, they've got to be who they are. And you can lead through that way if you're who you are, and the guys are going to respect that. So in that manner, yes. The thing I love about Gunnar, he's constantly improved each week. And again, to George's question, I think that has to do with confidence. I think that has to do guys around him are playing really well, and guys are making plays for him. But every rep that you get, obviously had a lot of bank reps being in this system, but every rep you get in game experience is going to help prepare you, whether it's good or bad, and you're going to learn from that. And he has learned from the bad plays that he's had in games and the good ones. I'm extremely proud of him. Can't say enough about how hard he works and how he prepares. And the thing about him, he wants to win for Georgia. He doesn't want to. He's not trying to win for Gunnar Stockton. I think a lot of the improvement you've seen throughout the year, he was so, I don't want to do anything to cost Georgia, that he maybe did not play as free as he needed to in some situations, and he's kind of come out of his shell a little bit, and you've been able to see more true of what Gunnar Stockton is and who he is as a quarterback. And he knows he's not even close to reaching his ceiling. He can continue to improve, and I know he's got a bad taste in his mouth about our first opportunity in the playoffs last year. I know it was his first start, but he wants to go out and, like our whole football team, and play well in this game and give ourselves a chance to win the ball game.
Mike, kind of piggybacking on Mark's question, your Royals finalist for the third time. You've got 2 SEC championship rings as the play caller now. Covered your whole career here, but do you need a national title to kind of, as the play caller, to complete your career here, or maybe finally shut everyone up?
No, I don't listen to, you know, the noise. There's I'm gonna sit here and say, hey, you don't hear noise, or, you know, you don't pay attention to it. I mean, you hear it, but you don't listen to it. You focus on what's important, and what's important is those coaches and those players, and me doing my job here at the University of Georgia for our head coach Kirby Smart. And I you know, as a competitor, you know, you want to win every game you play. And if there's a championship to be won, you want to win it. And you know, we accomplished one of our goals this year, and that's win the SEC championship. Now we got a chance in the playoffs to accomplish another goal. But you know, as a competitor, you want to win, and that's why we do this thing. We compete. But the other thing, why you do this, and why I got into coaching, is the effect that you can have on young men and helping see them grow. That's what I saw my whole life growing up, being a coach's son. Whether my dad coached a team and they won the state championship or he didn't, you know, that didn't change who he was and how he coached and how he loved on those kids. So that's why I do what I do. Not for somebody to say, hey, you know, you did a great job, you're a great coach. I want to get that letter from that young man that I coached 2 to 3 years from now saying thank you. That's why I coach.
Coach, obviously you recruited Gunnar for a long time. He's now completed his first year as a starter here. Just looking back on his recruitment and then his time here, what are some of the things that was attractive to him as a recruit, and that's come to fruition during his time here?
Yeah, well, one, his skill set, his ability to, his toughness when you watched him play, even in high school, his ability to will his team to win or make plays. He was a playmaker. He was a guy that, you know, didn't need the perfect pocket. He didn't, you know, need, you know, AJ Green or certain guys out there. He was going to make plays with whoever he had, and you saw his team in high school rally around him, and he took his team to another level at the quarterback position. So as you're evaluating a quarterback, you see a guy that makes plays. He's got a strong arm, but he makes plays with his legs. And the way the game's evolved, you know, I was looking for guys when I came back and I was recruiting him at South Carolina. I was looking for guys that could extend plays. And, you know, watching his tape, that's what intrigued me. Now, you know, everybody's, you know, I've known Gunnar for a long time, but I haven't known him as well as my family, my dad, when they lived in Raven. I didn't have that attachment until I started recruiting him. But you hear stories about this kid as he grows up, his toughness and how tough he is. And then you see that on the tape. And then when you get to know him, he's an extremely tough individual, mentally and physically. And that's what you want in that position, a guy that's tough. And you also want a guy that's humble, that goes to work every day, doesn't need to be told, you know, that he's the greatest. You know, he doesn't flinch if you get on him. He doesn't, if you say something positive or praise him, he doesn't get too high. He just goes to work. And, you know, that's the thing I've been proud of. And I'm fortunate. It's a joy for me to coach him and all those quarterbacks in our room. We got a bunch of good guys that come to work every day, but, you know, Gunnar is the guy that sets the standard in that room, along with Coach Streeter, and those guys have done a great job of making it about this Georgia football team and not about themselves.
Mike, what would it mean if you could get Colby Young back and maybe Ethan Barbour? What do they give to your play calling ability?
Well, you got two big bodies. I know Ethan's only a freshman, but he was playing for us early in the season and had the terrible injury and the setback. But he's worked extremely hard, you know, to get back and have a chance to possibly play. You know, we're still day to day, but he's a guy that can play both positions, Y and F. He's a guy that can be an inline guy and be able to flex out. So his versatility, number one. He's a very, very smart football player. You know, even when he was out, he was non-weight bearing, and he was always around. He was always paying attention. And the same thing for Colby is another heartbreaking injury for him. He thought he was done for the year, but he's worked his way back. But he was a big body, right, that was making plays for us on the perimeter, not just 50-50 balls. He was catching the ball, explosive after the catch. He was an extremely physical blocker. You know, I talked about him, I think in the preseason, maybe it was the spring, last time I talked to y'all, about how he was leading that room. And he continued to do that when he was out. So, you know, if we could get those two guys back and hopefully for this game, it's just two more weapons, you know, that are at our offense's disposal and Gunner's disposal.
At this point, we'll switch over to some Zoom questions.
Yeah, we'll go to Zoom. Let's start with Charles Odom from the Associated Press. A reminder to everyone asking a question, please unmute yourself to ask a question and then mute yourself when you finish the question. Charles?
Thank you. I know you guys had comebacks before the first Ole Miss game, but that was maybe the most dramatic to win the fourth quarter 17-0. Was that an important milestone type game as you look back on the regular season, and especially for your offense to be able to win a game where you had to really get into a scoring match?
You know, anytime you can come back in a game and be able to score points and you know, have to continue to do that, I think that gives you confidence. You know, obviously on the road, playing in Knoxville was big for our football team and big for our offense because we had to score in that game and was down, you know, late in the game and having to score and get a 2-point conversion gave our guys confidence. You know, there's always, you know, we got confident kids. They're confident because they were really good in high school, but we like to humble you around here and let you know that hey, it's not just about you. You got to go to work and play as a team, and I think that hardens them. It calluses them. The way Coach runs his program, it makes you tough, not just physically but mentally, so you can handle those moments. And you know, Coach Smart's teams do not flinch in adversity when they face adversity. We know it's going to come in every game, whether we first game of the season playing Marshall or when we had Ole Miss and we're down in the fourth quarter. However many points it was, you know, we just, you know, we don't look at the scoreboard. We say put the ball down, and we got to go out there and make the next play. But to make those plays in competitive situations when ball games are tight gives you confidence going forward. And you know, and we've done it more than the Ole Miss game, but that was one in that game that I think has carried on, and guys have continued to make plays in competitive moments. And there's no more competitive moment than in a fourth quarter, you know, when you're down. So, you know, proud of those kids, but they put themselves in position to make those plays by how they practice every week, how the pressure that's applied on them here in practice by our head coach allows these games to be easier. It might not seem easier, you know, in the moment you're playing in a big arena, you're down, but what these kids face every day and what they go through, I think hardens them. I like to say calloused, you know, for those situations, and you know, a lot of times they've come out on top because of their training.
All right, up next we'll go to Jed May.
Yeah, Mike, the run game has been a point of emphasis even dating back to the offseason. What do you remember about kind of establishing that as a point of emphasis, and how have you seen this offense embrace it throughout fall camp and throughout this season so far?
Well, I think I said it after the last time I talked, that was going to be the number one emphasis for us offensively. It was the number one emphasis for us defensively. So it's been a point of emphasis since we got back after last year and started talking about moving forward what our identity was going to be. And it was not about words. It was about going to work and making sure we had the right plan offensively to put our guys in position to be able to run the ball. So, you know, when you say, what does that mean? Well, we went back to square one. We went back and talked through every run, our alignment, our steps, our aiming points. We took nothing for granted. And we had every coach back. You know, we had two additions in Coach Lilly and Coach Field, but we took nothing for granted as a staff and said, hey, we're going to run the ball better. And, you know, how you going to run the ball better? You lost 3-4 guys to the NFL. We're going to run the ball better because we're going to make it a priority for this football team. And, you know, that was not just talked about when we got back. It was talked about every single day up until before the first football game, and it's talked about since. And we talk about it, and then we go out there and we live it in how we practice. And they embrace that. You know, if you weren't going to be hard, you weren't going to have a chance to get on the field on offense. And not just our offensive line, our tight ends, man. You know, early in the year, you know, they weren't getting a lot of catches, but they were playing extremely unselfish and blocking their tails off, not just in the core, but on the perimeter. Our receivers, we were struggling to get the passing game going early, but our receivers were blocking their tails off. And then we'd have our Friday night meetings before the game and, you know, go around and I'm talking to them, asking kids, you know, what do we need to do to win? And receivers are talking about, I need to block on the perimeter. I need to strain, you know, and those guys bought in. And I can't say enough about those players and their coaches getting their kids to buy in to our vision of what we want to do on offense, and totally unselfish. And I think that goes, you know, to you know, who we talked about earlier, our leader, you know, Gunnar Stockton. He's unselfish. And then as the offense continued to pick up and we gained more confidence and we became, you know, be able to do more than just run the ball and stretch the ball downfield but install more volume in offense, I think it's gave us more confidence and we've become a little bit harder to stop. And then also the +1 in the running game. You know, it's 4 yards here, it's 5 yards here, it's 3 yards here. Gunnar, you know, instead of, you know, throwing the ball away, it's 2nd and 7 or it's 2nd and 6. It goes from 2nd and 7 to 3rd and 1. You know, big play in the Ole Miss game is 2nd and 7, and he scrambles out to our bench and he gets it to 3rd and 1. It might have been right before Josh broke the tackle and we got or maybe it was third down and we got to 4th and 1 and we went for it. And Josh McCray got the first down with the unbelievable run. But if it would have got 4th and 1, Coach Smart wouldn't have let us, you know, go for it right there. But that was just that +1 run has really helped our running game, and especially in the red zone.
All right, last question here on Zoom. We'll go to Connor Riley. Connor, you have a question?
Yeah, Mike. How have you seen Brian Puglisi develop and stay engaged and stay with this program despite obviously being behind Gunnar?
Well, I couldn't really hear it. Can you repeat it? I'm about half deaf.
Yeah, sorry about that, Mike. How have you seen Ryan Puglisi develop and stay engaged within this program while backing up Gunnar?
Well, again, you have no choice but to stay engaged in this program, because whether you're a 1, 2, 3, or 4 on the depth chart, you're getting thrown out there in practice. And practice around here, I like to say, they're games. But that is a hard thing to do for the position of quarterback. Every other position, you know, they got a chance to get in the game, they got a chance to play, because one guy's not going to play every snap. They get a chance to play special teams. A quarterback, you know, they're probably not going to play unless that guy, you know, goes down with an injury. But I think he had a great role model when he came in last year. Carson did a great job of mentoring him and teaching him, and then seeing the backup last year in Gunnar, how he worked and how he prepared. I think Ryan's in that room and he's seeing those guys, how they prepare, how they work, go about their business. You know, the starter and the backup, you know, was good for him, good to see. And, you know, he's approached every day, whether he had a good day the day before or a bad day, of treating that day like he's the starter. And I say that all the time, and we say that, but that's hard to do. I mean, I had to get on Gunnar his first year. He wasn't doing that, and kind of took some steps back until I said, hey, man, every time we practice, this practice is like we're about to play Alabama. That's got to be your focus. And I say it in the meeting all the time, and I ask Gunnar, what did I say back to 3 years ago, Gunnar? And he'll repeat what I say. So Ryan's heard that. But Ryan's a self-motivated kid. He's got a natural competitive instinct, character about him. I think that's what drove him to come to Georgia, to play at a place like Georgia. He didn't flinch in who we were recruiting at that time, who we were recruiting after him. He's never flinched. He wants to be here. He wants to develop in this system, and he has developed. And he's got a ton of reps this year. He went from hardly getting any reps as to 3 to he's got, you know, every rep is to 2. And, you know, we see his development and really pleased of where he is, you know, as a football player and a possible leader of this program.
All right, Coach, thank you.
All right, guys.